Another top 10 on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast today. We're going to be doing the top 10 greatest Raw matches. So remember, Raw matches, everybody, not SmackDown or anything else. Raw matches. Now, our other co-host, David Robinson, he's now called Hollywood David Robinson because he spent a lot of his time on TV, local TV, doing his stuff. Didn't provide his list, so he is once again in trouble. He may have to take a pay cut, a bit like half of the WWE roster. But anyway, I do have a co-host that's done his homework, that's actually got a top 10 list for us, and will be doing it with me right now. It is the one, the only. And also, everybody, at time of recording, you need to wish this man a happy birthday. It is Mr. Michael Jolly. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here on my birthday. Thank you.
On his birthday, everybody. Yes, sitting here talking a load of rubbish about wrestling with me on he's celebrating his 21st birthday.
The I'm very well weathered for 21, so
I have noticed. Don't worry.
thank you.
But
Thank you for that.
no, it's all right. Not a problem at all. Look, top 10 Raw matches. Monday Night Raw has obviously been going on what seemingly forever now, and over the years has been or has had a lot of great matches for different reasons. So it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see your top 10 list, Michael. And I don't know if we're going to have the same matches, if we're going to have different matches, but instead of talking about it, let's get on with it. Your number 10 on your best Raw matches is what?
Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid from July 11th, 1994.
Wow.
So these two, so it was very early on in the One Two
Mm,
Three Kid's career. Bret Hart was, as he always is, just the peak of what he was able to do in the ring. And they decided one day to put these two in the ring for a random episode of Monday Night Raw, and they were fantastic. These two had fantastic chemistry to begin with, but then that there was quite a lot of pinfalls to start with, where the original one was where the 1-2-3 Kid had the foot on the rope.
hmm
The referee didn't see it, but then Bret Hart was like, "No, no, I don't want it to finish here. I want us to carry on." So they restarted the match, um, and yeah, Bret Hart was started getting really frustrated with the fact that he wasn't getting to pin the
Yeah.
1-2-3 Kid. Um, there's some really, really slick moves and near falls. Um, if we could have put that in the prime of now, it would be an incredible match to see. And yeah, as I said, Bret was getting really frustrated, but the match itself was very, very good for, and as I said, especially for um, um, Waltman's early career to be against Bret Hart, and it just shows that Bret Hart is someone, like everyone has always said, is he can make anyone have a good match because he's very, very particular and manipulate. He's able to bring out the best in the wrestler, and he's also be able to hide any weaknesses. Yeah, and I absolutely loved it.
And of course, Brett being the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, might have helped in that
Yes.
mantra as well. Funnily enough, your number 10 involved the 1-2-3 Kid, because so did mine, funnily enough. Now, we're talking about birthdays as well. Well, this Raw was the day after my birthday in real life, amazingly enough. It was on the June 21st, 1993. So I've given you a hint of when my birthday is there, by the way. I said it's the day after my birthday. June 21st, 1993. And possibly still to this day, one of the biggest upsets on Monday Night Raw in its history. The 1-2-3 Kid at the time, I believe, was a young rookie going against the arrogant, machismo-esque Reza Ramon. Scott Hall, as he's obviously as he was known and loved for. And he was kind of, Scott Hall was probably being his arrogant, cocky self during this match. And I even think sometimes he had the match won and he pulled the kid's head up during it. And then in the end, the kid hits that moonsault off the top rope, pinning Razor Ramon 1, 2, 3 flies out the ring because he couldn't believe that he won. Razor Ramon obviously going crazy on the inside the ring. But in terms of giving someone that career shift or that career momentum, the WWE done a great job with it during the 1, 2, 3 for the 1, 2, 3 kid. And I had to put it on there because in my era growing up, this is when we really kind of had the WWE. We had Sky at 1993. Obviously, it was never live at this point, but I still remember watching it and having that in my head that 1, 2, 3 kid doing that moonsault over to beat Scott Hall. And for me, it's still probably the greatest upset in Raw history, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you said, it was Rez Ramon versus at the time the Kid before he got the moniker of the 1, 2, 3 Kid because
Yeah.
of this match. Um, I've got that match as my honourable mention.
Yes.
It's as you said, it was fantastic. We over in the UK only got it an hour's at that point. It was an hour for Raw, and it
Yeah.
was all pre-taped on delay, and we used to get that on the Friday after it had been shown on the Mondays. And I think that was probably one of my very, very first matches that I ever saw when I switched over to see that Sky had wrestling. Obviously, we knew wrestling was about beforehand, but
Yeah.
in the UK, it was we got it quite late as regarding the American scene. And yeah, that is, as I said, it's an honourable mention because there's quite a few other matches on here, not just because I think it's the greatest match, but because, like on our other top 10 list, it brought me in or it had something that gripped me, which is where obviously mine and your opinions do differ sometimes. So, but that's a good shout, is that? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think sometimes it's not necessarily the match quality, but maybe even what followed from there or what started from these matches that we are putting on here. That predominantly that would be why they are the greatest because things have happened from it that maybe even changed or defined history in wrestling, perhaps. So that's
Yeah.
another reason why they are the greatest Raw matches. No, this doesn't have to necessarily be for in-ring ability, although I'm sure these matches will have some great in-ring action. But from 10, Michael, we go to 9. What is your 9?
Undertaker versus Jeff Hardy in that brilliant ladder match from 2002.
He is up on my list. It's up a bit further on mine, but yes, go for it.
Yeah, it's Jeff Hardy was very young in his career.
Yeah.
Dead Man had just changed his moniker from being the Dead Man to the biker gimmick. Um, and of all the matches to have, they had it in had a ladder match. And obviously, as we know from watching him later on in his career, Jeff Hardy is fantastic using the ladder. He was able to dominate quite a lot of the match against the Undertaker, but again, the Undertaker being who he is, he let that happen. He was able to, a bit like what we were saying before regarding the Bret Hart match,
Yeah.
he was able to hide his weaknesses and use his strengths. And ultimately, the crowd was completely behind him. And we actually thought he was going to beat the WWE champion at the time,
Yeah.
obviously, which was the Undertaker. Um, just a couple of notes. He was Hardy was defeated after Undertaker recklessly chokeslammed him off the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
The charismatic Enigma had Enigma's effort, had been enough to inspire admiration from the Undertaker. And after the match, the entire crowd was loving it. And the Undertaker raised his hand and gave him a bit of a nod to say, spot on. This is really, really good match. And during this period of time, the Undertaker could be at times known to show his frustration in certain matches with certain people, as we've seen with other people throughout their careers. But this was a really, really good match between these two completely different contrasts of wrestling, two completely different types of ways of that their styles are, but it gelled so well in a match that mainly it was a Jeff Hardy match. Yeah.
It was indeed. I'll add my 2 cents later when it comes on my list. Now, I said that matches don't necessarily have to have the greatest in ring. It doesn't have to be a Meltzer five-star classic or whatever else. Sometimes it could be the starting of something. And my number nine is exactly that. It was the start of what was going to be a feud that defined the Attitude Era. And that was the first ever meeting on the April 13th episode, 1998. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon. Now, we
Right.
all
Okay.
know, again, like I said, match quality wise, rubbish. We don't, it was not a catcher's catch can classic. It didn't have you on the edge of your seat. What it did have was the story. And we all know Stone Cold was the greatest anti-hero in wrestling history. He was a man that the crowd loved because he'd done everything that your boss didn't want you to do. So that is what the crowd loved. And at this point of Raw, Vince McMahon had finally had enough. He had agreed to do a match with Stone Cold because Stone Cold Steve Austin had said, I could beat you with one hand tied behind my back. So Vince went, well, we're going to have this match. He got them all in the ring. We was all getting ready, and Vince went, hang on a minute. You said you could beat me with one arm tied behind your back, Steve. So he did. They did do that. But it was also a part where we started off another feud that would transcend the Attitude Era because at the end of this, or the end of this match, it ended in a no contest because Dude Love, which was another alter ego of our great friend Mick Foley, come in and ultimately he got the mandible claw, now called the Tongan Death Grip, if you're watching Jacob Fatu on Raw, got the mandible claw on Stone Cold and thus kicked off that bit with Mick Foley kind of going in with Vince McMahon as well. And it just, as I said, match quality wise, dud. I could probably do it. We could probably do better now. But in terms of what transpired and what transpired for the years after, that match was significant because it really did kickstart the greatest feud, possibly still in professional wrestling to this day.
Yeah, I completely agree. Everyone goes on about how the Attitude Era was one of the best eras ever, but
Mhm.
if you watch it, it's a car crash of just nonsense from start to finish.
Yeah.
But everyone forgets that they just fixate on the enjoyment. And I think as we're talking about with our top 10, it doesn't matter whether it's a car crash, it's the enjoyment.
Yeah.
It's the does it bring you in? Does it make you want to watch week on every week? And yeah, Stone Cold unfortunately is not in any of my top 10, even though I've got a
Wow.
tattoo of him on my leg, and he is someone that I absolutely loved watching. But
Mhm.
you'll see why with the rest of my list why I haven't picked Stone Cold. So, but that's a good shout. But as you said, it's what transpired afterwards, which is
Yeah.
what got you invested. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Indeed, it did. Indeed, it did. Right. Next one on your list, birthday boy. What have we got?
my number 8 is John Cena versus CM Punk from 2013 February the 25th edition. So this was the match after Cena had after I believe Punk had been beaten by The Rock.
Mhm.
So this was between the once in a lifetime, actually not once in a lifetime, scene of each other.
Yeah.
So they faced each other to see who was going to go on to WrestleMania. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, we knew Cena was going to go ending up being on that, but the John
Yeah.
Cena Punk feud was always going to be there. It's considered one of the best Raw matches out there going.
Yeah.
Um, Knowing that it was going to be their last go at it, and what a match it was. I mean, they both
Mhm.
left it all in the ring, and we even saw that vicious pile driver
Yes.
move, which apparently got them both in hot water backstage.
Mhm.
But yeah, as you said, with what was going to happen afterwards, this match was one of the best ones from John Cena and Punk, in my opinion.
How ironic. I've got a different John Cena Punk match on my Raw top 10.
Okay.
I'll give that to you a bit later on. You mentioned that you had zero Stone Cold Steve Austin matches on your list. Well, I have two. I've had
Okay.
given you the one that I've already given you earlier on, literally nine on my list. Number eight on my list was a match that happened after WrestleMania 13. Now, WrestleMania 13, everyone will kind of know, will be where Austin passed out to the pain of the sharpshooter. The double turn happened during this match. Stone Cold Steve Austin was setting the light on fire, or the world on fire, really, and he was just really starting to become the Stone Cold that we know. But perhaps people forget the very next night on Monday Night Raw, they had a steel cage match, which was on Monday Night Raw. This was a really, well, it was fantastic. And it was used to prevent interference, obviously, from the Hart family. Bret Hart was still trying to solidify that, or that kind of heel persona that he was just, the crowd, I think at this point, there was a momentum shift in wrestling. The whole dynamic of wrestling had really changed. Bret was kind of like the hero that we wanted then, well, back before then. Austin was the hero that we wanted now. Bret never liked the whole swearing aspect, in the character. He obviously swore a lot. You've seen it on the shows that he's done previous, but he never liked that. That was the way the character was going. He didn't understand why the fans were booing him and cheering Steve Austin. This is the guy, you're cheering this guy. This is the guy that ultimately, does everything wrong, and you're loving this guy. And that was a great match. Funny enough, Bret won the cage match as well. So he kind of beat Austin twice in 2 days. But the solidification of Bret Hart as a heel makes this a very important Raw. And probably really, this was in 1997. We know what happens later on in 1997. Probably one of the biggest wrestling controversies still to this day with the screw job. So this kind of then moves him on and back to wrestling and getting back embroiled with Shawn Michaels. But that steel cage match alone is one that will always sit the test of time with me as I say it was the real kind of heel face bit. We had the turn at WrestleMania and it really solidified the next night on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, as you said, I agree with you on that one. It was after the WrestleMania match, as you could see, the whole demeanor, the whole way that the Bret character himself
Hmm.
carried himself, it was just very anti-America.
Yeah,
We got the Canadian flag coming out with him, and
yeah,
he was waving it everywhere with. And we had Pillman, British Bulldog, and his brother Owen with him,
yeah,
and they leaned into it. It was probably one of the better storylines for Bret at that time
yeah.
because they leaned into it really well. And as you said, every time he was coming out, people were booing him, and they didn't. In his head, as you said, didn't
Yeah.
understand why, and it
Hmm.
worked really well for him as well as Stone Cold. So yeah, that's a good shout. Is that
Yep, love that match. Love that match. Right. Seven on your list. Go for it.
Christian versus Rob Van Dam from
Wow, what a throwback.
September 29th, 2003. So this I've always loved both of these guys.
Yeah.
Even now, um, the stuff that Christian Cage is doing in AEW is incredible.
Hmm.
And when Rob Van Dam can wrestle in his later
Yeah.
years, he can still pull it out. But yeah, from the beginning, the the athleticism of RVD against Christian
Hmm.
um, was just yeah, it was just brilliant to watch the fluidness, the chemistry that they had, the way that at the time Captain Charisma's game plan was wise and very, very well may have worked on any other superstar, but of course,
Yeah.
Rob Van Dam didn't isn't an ordinary superstar.
No.
He was able to counter some fantastic um, moves from Christian reversals, and it ended up where he executed his trademark 5 star frog splash on top of the ladder positioned in the corner. Sorry, from the ladder in the position in the corner. Um, and yeah, it was just brilliant. It was great to see that Rob Van Dam unhooked the belt as it was held up and became the new Intercontinental Champion and taking it off of Christian. But yeah, I just think that as a match to look back on, that wasn't on a pay per view and was on a free TV. It was a very very good match to watch.
Indeed, indeed, it was very, very good indeed. My number seven is a historic number seven, a historic moment on Monday Night Raw. Which is, of course, the first ever women's main event of Monday Night Raw. Trish, I put them both in the same word then. Trish Stratus versus Lita. Lita obviously picking up the victory on this, but it was a historic moment because at this point in time, women on WWE um, were just used for anything other than wrestling. And you had two fantastic wrestlers here with Trish and Lita that were really should have been showcased better. And maybe arguably been showcased better in recent years when they've returned, because obviously women's wrestling now is a lot different to when it was back then in coin in the early two thousands or so. Uh, this for me was fantastic. I absolutely loved this, and it was because also it was just because people, the women, and like I said, it was they were utilized differently. It wasn't about what it should be about, which is what they are in ring, and their in ring match was absolutely fantastic. And I feel that these two nowadays, I think if these two were in their prime now and in the WWE, we'd be seeing a lot different different types of matches. And we've seen a few of them, as I said, over the last few years. But Trish and Lita, for me, really showcased at this point that women can and should be equals and treated also that they should be able to main event shows, and they absolutely demonstrate that. One of them nearly, if I remember, nearly decapitated themselves during this with a
Yeah,
dive to the outside. But this just proved to me how amazing both of these two athletes really, really was.
yeah, that's to be honest, she was that match is on one of my honorable mentions. You've got
Hmm.
Lita, that's come from a Mexican lucha style
Yeah,
background, and you've
yeah,
got Trish, that's come from a bodybuilding background that wanted to do more than just be a valet.
yeah.
And as you can see through her career, she's done exactly what she wanted to do, and she's made a fantastic name for herself. If she hadn't have done what she did, I think she'd have been released and been lost to the history books. But yeah, good shout is that. And as I said, two fantastic wrestlers who, if they were around about now during their prime, they would be basically they would you'd have them like the Rhea Ripley and even Tekla type of style in WWE and AEW. Yeah, so
Hmm. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Right. Getting always up there already, to be honest. Six on the list. What's going on in your six?
CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan from
Nice.
2012.
Yeah.
So days after their stellar battle ended in controversial fashion on SmackDown, Punk
Yeah.
and Bryan kicked off Raw Super Show with another competitive back and forth affair. After Bryan delivered a series of vicious kicks to Punk's
Yeah.
back and midsection, straight edge superstar punished Bryan with a spinning heel kick, running knee kick, and a top rope elbow. But none of this was enough. A mid-air collision took both of the wrestlers out before David Otunga interfered, led to chaos. Laurinaitis stopped the referee's count when Punk hit Lee go to sleep. The bout ended in a no contest and left Punk and Bryan in a lingering score to settle. Um, Absolutely, I think these two. Daniel Bryan has never missed a step from his time in Ring of Honor all the way up to his semi-retirement, and during this period of time was when CM Punk was at his absolute best in WWE, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Definitely so. Again, maybe elsewhere they would have had a lot more matches and would have may have done this, well, a lot more, you know, where they could have had some in AEW, but they didn't quite get there. I don't think they didn't have
Yeah,
enough, again, didn't have enough time to what they did. They're awesome, awesome talents. My six, many people may have had this higher, by the way, but my six was an incredible match on Monday Night Raw, October the 3rd, 2005, Homecoming Monday Night Raw was I don't know if it was main evented, but it was on the show. It was Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels in a 30-minute Iron Man match. Wasn't, I think it was the that year they had the WrestleMania match. I should know, I was there at WrestleMania that year when they had their first WrestleMania 21. They had this 30-minute Iron Man match on Homecoming. Um, it was an incredible match. It was actually the rubber match between the two. Angle had won the match at WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels had won the next one, and they done a rubber match here. Kurt Angle hit an Angle slam quite early with it, and then it took a while on this, but it ended 2-2. between the two. They never actually finished this match off. It was a 2-all. HBK hit a late sweet chin music in this. It was called the rubber match, but obviously, the rubber match ended probably in the draw, which may have been a fair result going forward over the course of time. But an incredible Iron Man. Everyone said that they wanted this to go an Iron Man match. We didn't get the hour, but we did get half an hour of absolute fantastic storytelling and wrestling by both of these men.
Yeah, I completely agree. Fantastic pick. Unfortunately, not on my list, but because there's quite a lot of matches to go through to pick. But Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, fantastic at that during that peak of their wrestling careers. Shawn had found himself again, and Kurt Angle was just having banger matches, no matter whether it was on house shows, main events, pay-per-views, weekly television shows. He was just hitting them all out. Yeah, fantastic pick of that. Yeah,
What I like about having doing top 10 matches are, especially when we're doing Raw and that, you mentioned there is so many, and there's probably going to be so many that we've forgotten about, or you're going to say one, and like I've mentioned there, and you said that one's not in my top 10, and it's like, wow, but then you're going to say one in a bit, and I'll be like, damn, that's not in mine, and it will take us back, which is great because there has been so many memorable moments on
well,
Raw and SmackDown.
this is a thing. If you look at it, they've been going since '93. There's been
Yeah,
1,700 shows.
yeah,
So not everyone is going to have, even if you did a top 10, top 100 list, not everyone is
yeah,
going to have the
matches.
exact list.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it's a good one. Is this
exactly that. Halfway there. Five. What is your five?
John Cena versus Shawn Michaels?
Wow. Now
So,
mine is very higher up my list, but go ahead.
this was from Raw
Was
April 2007. After
yeah.
Cena had retained his championship against Michaels at WrestleMania 23,
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
four-way was set up for Backlash featuring Cena, Michaels,
Hmm.
Randy Orton, and Edge. The
Hmm.
go-home show for Raw was meant to have a Cena versus Michaels non-title rematch, as well as Orton and Edge, as we've just said.
Yeah.
But they ran into a snag. Orton was punished for some unprofessional conduct behind the scenes
Yeah.
and was sent home, meaning Cena and Michaels were told to stretch their match out for nearly an hour. Um, and I'm sorry to say it, and the Madmen did it. Having Cena wrestle for nearly an hour,
Mm.
um, you wouldn't think of it now. If you said to me, "Do you know John Cena had wrestled an hour?" I'd be like, "There's got to be a lot of rest holds." But there wasn't.
No.
They both took the time. They both did it. It was a killer exhibition that would be seen as best match, in my opinion, to date.
Yeah.
Um, and again, not bad for a match that was changed last minute.
I'll get to just to add. I'll add my 2 cents into it a bit later on. But the best part about it was I was there. It was in London. It was a Raw in London that it went in.
Of
So no,
course, yes, yes. It
it
was on their
was. It was
European
part.
tour,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah, it was. So I'll go into mine in a minute because when I say it's very high up my list, I mean I don't think we're going to get any higher up my list than that one. But now you had one earlier on. So my five, you mentioned it earlier, to Undertaker Jeff Hardy ladder match from that Raw. This, so Jeff Hardy, obviously predominantly a tag team star as well. So this really kind of put Jeff Hardy on a map as a single. I don't think if this match happens, I don't know if Jeff actually wins any World Heavyweight Championships any in his career in the WWE. He was always the guy that got the pop. I mean, when you say Sean and Marty, without disrespect to Matt Hardy was always the Marty Jannetty of these two. Jeff was always the one that got the crowd. I know Matt did get a good response after the whole thing with Edge and Lita, the real life, stuff that happened. But Jeff was always the one. Jeff was always don't want to say the exciting one, but the crowd would always go for Jeff. Jeff would always be there. Whether Jeff would have, this was his kind of I can do single, I can main event, I can be a world heavyweight champion. And this was the match that done it. Now, granted, he didn't win the world championship till many, many years later. But for me, this match itself, when you get the nod from The Undertaker, that's when you know. And I suppose that's when the WWE knew that Jeff was a big player in the business. Yes, the match suited Jeff, and I think it had to because you had to make sure that Jeff could go it with the best in his element as well, even though he come up short, which There was nothing wrong in losing to The Undertaker in those days, but it was certainly the test that maybe is Jeff capable of doing it when the lights are on bright in a main event for a World Heavyweight Championship? And the answer, of course, was a resounding yes. And he would go on to win many World Heavyweight Championships. So it was important, maybe and arguably the most important match in Jeff Hardy's career, but he knocked it out of the park and proved to everyone that he could be a World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, completely agree with everything you've said there. Um, I I don't think he would have ever been a WWE singles
Yeah,
champion if
certainly
it
not in the
wasn't.
WWE. I mean, maybe elsewhere, but he
Yeah,
would never have been the World Heavyweight Champion in
no.
WWE.
I know they changed the way that they did stuff later on, like with the whole Rey Mysterio thing and that, but
Yeah.
giving him the belt. But I do think, yeah, I think you spot on with that. It's if Undertaker didn't get a good match out of him, he would have been the I'm going to say awfulness, but he would have been the Shannon Moore type of wrestler. He would have been knocked down the card. He would have just been there just to um, make up the numbers, and he wouldn't have been given the credit and
Yeah.
credibility of being able to hold a main championship like he would have, like he has, if it wasn't for that match. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely so. I think so. Right, we're getting to the top end already. This is great. I love these ones. Right, number four on your list is
Mankind versus The Rock from
beautiful.
1999.
Yeah.
So this was during the peak of the Monday Night Wars,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to go over it because everyone will have known about this. So Mick Foley at the time was Mankind, but
Yeah.
Mankind, not the Mankind how he started against the Undertaker. It was the lovable Mankind,
Yeah.
and he came out to challenge for the belt,
Hmm.
and with the help of DX and Stone Cold, was able to defeat The Rock
Yeah.
and become the new champion. Now, this is where the infamous line came from WCW, especially Tony Schiavone, because at this time WCW was running live
Yes,
and Monday Night Raw was taped.
of
So
course.
what they used to do during this period of time, if people didn't know, is that they would give away the results at the beginning of the show. So then you would then, in their eyes, you would then just go watch WCW because you've already been
Yeah.
told what's going on. But they mentioned that they mentioned, I can't remember how it was put across, but they basically mentioned you've got you've got a guy in a mask who's going to face The Rock and win the belt. That'll put bums on seats. And
Yeah.
as soon as he said that, everyone switched over to Raw to watch it. And a lot of people have said that that was the start of the decline of WCW because of that infamous line. Now, a lot of people could tell me completely different, but it is one of those um, historical pins in wrestling where it was the start, even if it was a
Mhm.
catalyst for what was going to happen later on. But yeah, um, just as we said, it was a car crash of a match. It wasn't anything spectacular, but the rivalry between Mankind and The Rock was something that everyone loved. Everyone got behind Mick Foley as Mankind, and he was the lovable underdog. And being able to see him, especially with the whole Vince McMahon not wanting him to be the champion, like as we were
Yeah.
talking about before, with the Stone Cold angle, yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely to watch.
I think they lost about three-quarters of a million viewers, I believe, when Tony Schiavone said that. I think that
Yeah,
was around that number. Anyway, it's a big number, but a defining moment. I love that. Yeah, was that when Austin come out? Did he hit him with a chair? Did he hit The Rock
I
with a
think so.
chair?
Yeah, so I believe it was.
They was all fighting on the outside, wasn't they? All fighting around the
Yeah,
outside. And I remember that's the first time I think I heard Michael Cole lose his voice during commentary, if I
yeah. So
remember right.
DX were brawling with Vince's goons. Then the glass
Yes.
shattered,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, and that basically was it. It was the thing to stop The Rock from retaining the belt. But yeah, it was, as I said, I always remember that match and the line goes together. That'll put bums on seats, and it was just if he'd have known what was going to happen, would he have still said it?
Yeah, I don't think he would have done. Probably one of the biggest pops. It was also still to this day. That may be a top 10, the top 10 biggest pops in wrestling that we might have to look at. I've got a few in my head already that I don't need I'd have to go scroll through the time, but I've got a few in my head to do. My number four, now, you had a match earlier on, which you mentioned was CM Punk and John Cena. So you had one of their matches earlier on. Well, this match is on four on my list for a reason. So the 1000th episode of Monday Night Raw, and it was a match with massive significance that we didn't know about at the time, because at this point everyone had cashed in the Money in the Bank contract and succeeded to do so. John Cena become the first person to cash in the Money in the Bank and lose. And this was this very match with CM Punk on the July 23rd, 2012 edition of Monday Night Raw. Raw 1000 it was called then. Cena and Punk had an unbelievable match. Big Show did interfere. They had post-match beatdown as well. Rock saved the day for Cena, but fantastic match between the two. And like I said, sometimes these matches. I mean, it was great in ring as well, but it was a significance that have happened. That it was the first ever cash in that failed for Money in the Bank. Also, that made this match top of one of the top four on my list. For the match quality itself, brilliant, and the significance of the match as well will go down in history on Raw.
Yeah, another great shout. That, as you said, it was during that period of time. As on my one earlier, they were at the peak. They couldn't do anything wrong. Cena was doing some fantastic work in the ring,
Mm.
and it showed with especially with him and the Punk rivalry feud that they had. Every match they had was a banger. So yeah, that's a good shout. Was that?
Brilliant. Right, top three, Michael. What is your third?
My number three is a Falls Count Anywhere match from September 22, 1997, and it
Wow.
was Cactus Jack versus Triple H.
That's my two.
So, so during this period of time, we ended up having the three faces of Foley.
Yeah,
So obviously we'd already seen Mankind, we've already seen Dude Love.
yeah,
So Dude Love was scheduled to battle Triple H in a Falls Count Anywhere match.
yeah,
And unfortunately, he appeared on the screen and said that
yeah,
he wasn't able to, it wasn't exactly a love thing, and introduced the deranged Mankind instead. But
yeah,
Mankind also insisted there was even someone even more qualified
yeah.
out there and introduced Cactus Jack and the
Hmm.
infamous Triple H face drop,
Yes.
of which Cactus Jack then came out and they had a brutal match. Yeah, he'd never been seen in a WWE ring before as Cactus Jack. Then obviously we'd then go on to their cage match at, I believe it was No Way Out,
Hmm.
which was a lot bloodier. But for
Yes.
something I always remember seeing and watching, I enjoyed the Mankind gimmick. I enjoyed the Dude Love gimmick, especially when he was teaming with Stone Cold.
Yeah.
And then to see, because I again, for me, because I've been quite young, I was relatively new to the whole Cactus Jack side of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, watching him with Terry Funker's Chainsaw Charlie was a bit of a letdown,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
especially in that dumpster match against the New Age Outlaws. But I
Yeah.
just thought, I just thought, I loved how they did it, especially in the Royal Rumble when they brought all three of his personas out, and
Mhm.
I just thought them two did a fantastic match again on free TV. So yeah, that's my number three. I just thought it was a really good one to put in this top 10 list.
It really, really was. And again, it's in my two, so I won't add any more to it now because I'm going to come to it very shortly. Um, I want to go back to a yet another ladder match. And this was two of our good people that we've already spoken about. This was in 2002, July 22nd. Uh, it was RVD one-on-one with Jeff Hardy in a ladder match for the number one contendership for the WWE Championship on the line. This was just nuts. This was Car Crash TV at its absolute best. It again, this was at the time we've kind of touched on it with the Jericho, sorry, with the Hardy Undertaker bit. previously that Jeff Hardy was trying to solidify himself as a singles competitor, main event material. This match with RVD totally added to this fact that Jeff Hardy was here to stay as a singles competitor. And some of the spots they were doing off the ladder were just, so innovative at the time. It was just insane. This was at the time, obviously, ECW had gone as well. So I mean, WWE were trying to bring bit more of that hardcore element. I mean, geez, they've gone through a lot of hardcore periods in their time with WWE, but I think at this point, with these two together, just created pure magic in that ring, in that ladder match. Bit better, in my opinion, a little bit better than the Undertaker Jeff Hardy match, but with less significance in terms of that match made Jeff Hardy. This match kind of solidified Jeff Hardy as a top star in WWE.
Yeah, as you said, it's two different types of matches, but you've got two people in that ring that work the same style.
Mhm.
So yes, the Undertaker match helped him, but this match was just exactly what they needed to do, and they both did. The chemistry between them both was fantastic because they both were that style of wrestling. And again, as you said, using the ladder, that type of stipulation is always works for them both. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be really that was a really great match between the two wrestlers for sure. Two on the list. What is your two?
So this is one of my only ones from the last 5-10 years. It's Gunther versus Chad Gable.
Oh yeah,
So during this period of time, Gunther is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, and Chad Gable, before the Shorty G gimmick,
hmm
was doing some of his best work. He was
yeah,
really leaning to the Kurt Angle style of wrestling, which he should have
definitely.
been doing from the very beginning. And these two absolutely destroyed each other, and the crowd were absolutely invested. They
Yes.
soaked everything up, everything that they put in the ring, the fans were loving. And obviously, we saw that Gunther would retain, but like we've just said regarding the Undertaker Jeff Hardy type of match, it showed that a different side of uh, Chad Gable that we hadn't seen in a while, and potentially showing us potentially that he could be a future champion. Now, to this point, as of right now, no, and it's a shame because I think he's one of those that they dropped the ball on and missed the boat
Mhm.
with. They should have put a belt on him and just left him being the new Kurt Angle
Yeah.
style of wrestling. But I just thought this was absolutely fantastic and something we haven't seen for quite a long time on Raw.
Yeah, definitely so. Really good. That was really enjoyed it. Gunther and Chad. I mean, that's just. I mean, all you had to say was the two people. I mean, we all know how great both of those two men are, and I think it's that was quite recently, and I think at that point it was nice to actually see pure wrestling, which is was really missing from this day and age. I think for
Yeah,
sure, we don't get that anymore within the WWE. Certainly in WWE anyway, we don't get it as much anymore. So to see those two go at it was great. You kind of know what my two and one is already because I've given it away. Two, Triple H, Cactus Jack, the street fight that you mentioned earlier on. I think it was the line was I think was it I think I thinking what I think you're thinking. I think that was something that Mick Foley had said during it. It confused me just saying it. I'm sure it probably confused him as well. Three faces of Foley, obviously, dude. Like Mankind might have been the what out of the three. Dude Love certainly wasn't the right person for this street fight. Mankind may have done it, but Foley needed to go further into his bag of tricks on Monday Night Raw, and you don't get any further into the bag of tricks than Cactus Jack. And I remember the pop because I wasn't, obviously some of us knew who Cactus Jack was, and I think I only saw the greatest significance about who Cactus Jack is when he come out as Cactus. The pop from the crowd, I was like, okay, they know what this guy is. And I didn't really know. I had to go back and, this was really before we had anything like YouTube or anywhere to have a look at who is this Cactus Jack guy. Internet was limited, but you could read up on it. And I remember reading up on it afterwards and thinking, wow, this guy's totally different to the other two. So it was great because the three faces of Foley had to be massively different from one another. Mankind was a deranged monster. Dude Love was his hippie, kind of guy that was getting all the girls somehow, and then you had Cactus Jack, who was just this one crazy badass that just took crazier bumps than Mankind, if all that was possible. So again, it solidified that face, made me realize who Cactus Jack actually is. And it gave me an insight as to how crazy Mick Foley is as well. But three totally different gimmicks that Mick Foley pulled off exceptionally well, and the match itself was just brutal, absolutely brutal, which is what
Yeah,
Raw was all about back in those days.
yeah. As you said, three completely different. He was able to have sorry, three completely different characters, all unique in their own way. And it was the first time I'd ever watched anyone wrap barbed wire around their arm and use it
Mhm.
as a object. Because obviously at the time you would just have people hitting them over the head with a steel chair or turnbuckle. But yeah, it was a it was something unique to watch.
Yeah, exactly. It really, really was. Right, we've been to 10. We've done it all down. We're at number one. Your greatest Raw match is.
Shawn Michaels versus Shelton Benjamin from May 2nd, 2005.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
know it.
massive. I mean, Shelton Benjamin to this day, he still doesn't look over 21, even though I do. Um, and he can still go. I mean, this guy should have been had a rocket strapped to him and shot to the moon.
Yeah,
He was just
agreed.
incredible. I mean, obviously, he was part of the Charles Has and Kurt
Yeah,
Angle trio.
yeah,
But yeah, absolutely loved it. I mean, what if you haven't watched it? Go sort it out. It is on YouTube. But the bit that always sticks out to me is when Shelton Benjamin does the jumps, catapults himself
yeah,
off the top of the top rope, and Shawn Michaels just catches him square on the chin with that
yeah.
sweet chin music, and it knocks him out cold. I don't think you could ever ask if that was had to be. Can you redo that? We didn't get that filmed correctly. I don't think he could ever have done that as sweet, pardon the pun, as sweet as it was because that was beautifully done. Yeah, I can't say over anything other than that because it was just an incredible match.
Oh, it really, really was. I think they had the Thai guy there, didn't they, in the front row, and he jumped out of his skin doing the
Yeah,
when Sean done that kick, and it was live television, one take shit as well, which is quite incredible for that spot. You know, sometimes you see spots and they don't quite go down. Okay, this was impeccable, absolutely impeccable time. It was an honourable mention on my part as a match for sure, but absolutely tremendous, 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 tremendous. Now. My one, you've already mentioned it. I think it was your five. My one, there's a bit of biasness. I was there to see this, and it was that Cena Michaels match, the nearly an hour. I think it went on like 50 odd minutes. And it was at the time when Cena, I was booing Cena at the time. I think people were sick of John Cena, were sick of the same old stuff that he was doing. I remember, I think they even started this match with like headlock takeovers and nip ups and some bits like that. And I was like thinking, wow, we hadn't seen because John was kind of at this point, he was the modern day Hulk Hogan at this particular stage. He was literally the guy that would take a beating, he would get back up, he would hit the greatest hits that he does, the shoulder barges, the five knuckle shuffle, the you can't see me. It would then go into the attitude adjustment or the FU, and it would be all she wrote, or he would twist it into the STFU, and the guy would tap out. That would be it, and that would really be your scene a match. So to have this dragged out for 50 minutes with, as you say, real limited in the rest holds in this, and it was pure kind of action. It made a lot of people look at John Cena differently. I really loved the finish, though. It was he was going to give him the FU. He does it. Sean flips in, hits the sweet chin music, and collapses on him due to exhaustion after the 50 odd minutes. And then he gets the 1, 2, 3, kind of getting one back. Cena obviously had beat him at WrestleMania 23.
23. Yeah,
23 at the time. So it was a great way to get back. And again, a little bit of biasness from me because I was there, but just an incredible, incredible main event for Monday Night Raw and one that will live solely in my memory for a long, long time. That's for sure.
yeah. Well, as you said, our list. Yes, there are top 10 lists of greatest matches. There are top 10 lists of everything. But
Mhm.
as we've always said on this channel, these are our top 10 list. There are going to be people saying, how could you not put that in? That should be higher. But it's not just about the match. It's about the atmosphere. It's about the feeling. It's the investment. It draws you in. So we do it as a whole, not just as a list as such. So, but yeah, that's I can't say anything other than that. I wish I was there to watch it live, but yeah, that's a smashing send off for your top 10. I just want two honourable mentions though.
Go on.
So I've got a Ric Flair versus Edge from January 2006,
TLC,
which was a TLC match. Yes, yeah, and then we also had John Cena versus Cesaro from 2014 during his US
open
challenge. I even was going to say it was when one of my favourite honourable mentions was Kevin Owens, but that wasn't the match. That was him coming out, just hitting him and then beating him at Elimination Chamber. So, but yeah, that's mine. That's a good one, is that?
Yeah, excellent. Great top 10. We love it. Drop yours in the comments. Send us it via DM or whatever you want to do. If you want your top 10 greatest SmackDown matches or your top 10 greatest wrestling pops, you want to give them that to us ahead of when we do that. Do that. Put it in the comments. Put it in the below on YouTube. Follow us at HTT Buckle everywhere. We're not going to say what we got coming up or what's coming out yet. We'll save that for another day. But Michael, enjoy the rest of your birthday. Have a great day. And we'll see you and everybody else again soon. HTT Buckle everywhere, everyone. Until next time, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.